Okay, we aired the grievances after the game on Sunday with the Packers' embarrassing loss. And there were plenty of them. But what is the upside case for this Green Bay Packers team? Is there one? We're going to try and be as fair to that case as we possibly can be today. Plus, what's the other side? What is the pessimist case of this 2023 Green Bay Packers season? We try and dig into both on today's show. It's a glass half full, glass half empty episode of Locked On Packers because let's be honest, you're probably drinking something.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You were Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. The Packers are 2-4. And I frankly don't know how some of you get through the day. The negativity has gotten to maximum velocity or something close to maximum velocity. And I understand it. I get it. We said a lot of things that were negative about this Green Bay Packers team after the loss. The issues with Matt LaFleur, the issues with Jordan Love, the issues with this young team, the issues with the defense, all of those things. And I wrote about this a little bit for The Leap today, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Some of the numbers in here are truly, truly bizarre, but they speak to a potential that this team has that the other teams who are struggling right now just do not have. Right now, we know how bad the first half offense is. 30th in EPA per play in the first half, 31st in success rate in the first half. Dreadful in the first half. Even in the games where they've ultimately played well, dreadful in the first half. There's no getting around it. And one of the things that Matt LaFleur said was, and this anecdote I think illustrates it perfectly, he said he expected them to match personnel. Something that they've shown that they've done over the season. When you go to 11, they go to nickel. Something that I wish Joe Barry would do a little bit more of because they went to a 6 offensive lineman look, Denver did, with 2 tight ends, and the Packers played nickel. But the Broncos came out and played in base on first and second down, essentially guessing the Packers were going to try and run the ball. And they didn't have runs called that have cans off of them. Not every play has a can off of it. And Jordan Love, the system is not built for him to just audible at will like Aaron Rodgers did. That was why there were some of these questions about like how much freedom at the line of scrimmage is Aaron Rodgers going to have. It's not in the offense. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur had to work together to put together a plan so that it could work, where he could have complete freedom at the line of scrimmage and still make sure everyone is doing what they need to be doing and the offense still functions the way that the offense still needs to function. That means early on in the game, they could go to some more runs where you have cans off of them based on the look. Because if you have the run and you can can it to a play action, when you have heavy personnel on the field, that is an advantage to Green Bay. If you ran some more RPOs where you actually get to read a conflict defender, that would be a good way to address this. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of that. And frankly, I would like to see them just come out with a little more urgency. They tried to go to the no huddle. They did it on the first drive. They ran a couple runs that didn't work, and then they had to throw it, and they had to check it down on a 2-shell look. Punt, 3 and out. But then they were afraid to go back to that no huddle look. Why? Why? But then in the second half, they are the number one offense in EPA per play. Number one, the best second half offense in football. And if you want to say, but Peter, the Packers scored 28 points. Yes, Quay Walker scored 7 of them. The offense scored 21 points against the Bears. That's bringing up this number. It's nonsense. If you take out the Bears game, they are second in EPA per play. They fall all the way to second in EPA per play. They are still second in success rate in whatever sample you want to put together, the big sample or the smaller one. They're better than the Chiefs in the second half. They're better than the Dolphins, the Eagles. Pick a really good offense. The 49ers, they're better than those teams in the second half of this season. And it's not just garbage yards. Yes, they're having to catch up, but they're catching up. In 3 of their 4 losses, they had leads in the fourth quarter. Now, against the Falcons, they were just winning, and the defense blew it. Against the Broncos, they come back from 2 scores down, and the defense blows it. Matt LaFleur pointed that out yesterday in his press conference. And against the Raiders, they had the lead in the fourth quarter, and the defense blew it. Now, yes, the offense also had some opportunities with the game on the line to go down and win, and they didn't, but the offense did the thing that they needed to do. They got the lead. It's up to the defense to get a stop once in a while. And the only stop the defense got this year was when the Saints drove the ball down the field and the kicker missed the kick. It was a less than 50-yard kick. He had a better than 50% chance, historically league-wide averages, of making that kick. He just biffed it. So the upside of this offense is there. And this was also, I thought, a weird but telling stat from our friend Zach Cruz. If you look at Jordan Love from a clean pocket, he was not very good on Sunday. 13 of 20 for 73 yards, a touchdown, and then the game-sealing interception. But under pressure, he was 8 of 11 for 107 and a touchdown. That's awesome. Stepping up, making plays. He took off and ran a couple times. I bet if you looked at his EPA, it would be through the roof when pressured. He was really good against the Lions when pressured as well. The upside of this offensive line atrophying at the rate that it is that he is becoming more and more comfortable just playing with pressure in his face, staying calm, and making throws. Here's the best part. 9 for 9 for 90 yards and both touchdowns off play action. That was supposed to be the thing in this offense. It was supposed to be a play action based offense. Now, when you can't run the ball, you don't play action as much if you're Matt LaFleur, even if the numbers say that's nonsense. You can just keep using play action. It's okay. But for Green Bay, that is an easy button. In the same way that RPOs were easy buttons for them the last 2020, 2021. Play action is supposed to be that for this team, and they just haven't stuck with it. And I don't know if it's because the running game hasn't been good. It helps the blocking. You can't say, it's no one can hold up in the run game. One of the benefits of play action is that you get a defensive front that has to play the run on the way to the quarterback. So the problem for the Packers right now is consistency, not high-end ability. Because in the second half of these games, they are not just a fine offense, not just a passable offense, not just a good offense. They are the best offense in the NFL in the second half. Elite by EPA per play. So if they could put together a little bit of consistency, it would look pretty good. Jordan Love, by the way, his EPA per play went up. So if this offense can find whatever button, and to me, this is just turning the dials. That is the metaphor I have been using. They have been at times way too conservative and at times way too aggressive. They have not found that Goldilocks zone yet, where it's just the right amount. It's just soft enough bed, the just right temperature porridge, all that stuff. They haven't found that yet, but their second halves, we're talking about 6 games now. We're talking about more than a third of the season. So it's like, it's not a big sample size, but it's not no sample size. Like there is something going on in there to be the best offense in the league. Imagine if they were the best offense in the league, full stop, through 6 games. You'd be going, wow, that's pretty cool. They're an elite offense. Well, they are the best offense in the league in the second half. And they have come back in must-pass situations, which is supposed to be where a first-year quarterback struggles. It's in the game-neutral situations where the Packers struggle, and that is one more thing that I want to point out, and I pointed it out in the piece that I wrote for the Leap. In situation-neutral passes, the Packers have one of, which is essentially early down runs. The Packers have one of the lowest pass rates in the league. On Sunday, 27 passes to 20, or 27 rushes to 20 passes on early downs. And yet they had a negative EPA per play on rushes and a 0.24 EPA per play on runs or on passes. You don't need to know what that means, just that one is much better than the other. They were very good throwing on early downs and not good running on early downs. And yet they did the thing that they were not good at a lot more. That just doesn't make any sense, especially when they're run blocking the way that they are. So there are ways, there are places for this team to get significant improvement in ways that they've already shown they can play. Matt LaFleur says if you hold the team to 20 points, you expect to win. That's true, but they've also held some bad teams, have had big yards per play numbers. The defense has not actually been that good. But they should have won those games if the offense in the second half played even half as good as it did in the first half. They'd be 4-2, 5-1 if that were the case. But they haven't. But we've seen that they can be that good. So even if they could just do that for 3 quarters instead of 2, it would be an entirely different season. And the fact that they've done it for a half over the course of 6 games, the optimist case is they can be that team. We've seen them be that team now enough times to be confident that just a couple more plays go their way and things can be different. Now, we're going to turn this around. Some of you are going to have more fun. Some of you are going to have less fun. We'll see in a second here on Locked On Packers. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your job faster and for free. You can add your job to LinkedIn.com, add the purple hashtag that you're hiring to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're looking for someone. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Today's episode also brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks, which is daily fantasy sports made easy. 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you just watch the winnings roll in. Put a couple players together. Prize Picks, they set the number. Rushing yards for Aaron Jones, passing yards for Jordan Love, receiving yards for Christian Watson. Put those guys together. You've got a lineup. It's daily fantasy, and you can win up to 25 times your money. Turn $10 into $250 if you play your cards right. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's really fun. And not just football. Basketball, honestly, basketball is my favorite. And so go. What are you waiting for? Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And football season is here, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Anitra Batiste, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Crabb will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Locked On NFL's YouTube channel. Or, of course, it's on Locked On Packers. The flip side of this. Some of it we talked about on Sunday. The flip side of this is we have no reason to believe the defense will improve. Jair Alexander can't stay in the lineup. Eric Stokes hurt. Darnell Savage now is going to miss a couple games with this calf injury that he's re-aggravated. You're going to be playing a 7th-round rookie, Anthony Johnson Jr., who I'm really excited to see play football. Devondre Campbell's been hurt. Devontae Wyatt is hurt. Lucas Van Ness has been playing hurt. Your offensive line, Rasheed Walker has been bad. John Runyon Jr. has been bad. They don't seem to want to play Yosh Nijman, which doesn't seem to make any sense to anyone. Right now, anyway. They don't want to shake things up on the offensive line for reasons that remain unclear. They don't want to give Aaron Jones more than 11 touches. Why? They don't want to feature Christian Watson. Why? They want to keep running the ball on early downs. Why? They came out of the bye week off a self-scout doing the same old stuff. Where are the answers? As I said on our post-game show, if they had them, we would have seen them. Right now, they don't have them. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's going to get worse before it gets better. But certainly losing to this Vikings team without Justin Jefferson in a year where they're probably going to win 4 or 5 games and you're 1, maybe 2 of them is probably worse than losing to the Broncos, even if the Broncos are a worse team in a vacuum, and they are. It's going to feel worse to lose to Minnesota. It's going to feel worse to go through this stretch where you feel like you're a better team than the Raiders. They didn't play like a better team. You're a better team than the Broncos. They didn't play like a better team. You're a better team than the Vikings. We'll see if they play like a better team. What confidence would you have to do that? What have they shown in the last month that would tell you they would do that? They seem to be regressing. Things seem to be getting worse, not better. Matt LaFleur can say whatever he wants about having confidence in Jordan Love, but when he comes out with the game plan that he's had the last 2 weeks, when early in the ballgame he seems deathly afraid to let Jordan go cook, maybe being a little afraid of what happened in Detroit where they're slinging the ball all over the yard, trying to hit all these deep shots, and Jordan Love throws a couple interceptions. By the way, I only had a problem with one of the interceptions in that game. And even that was like the receiver. Honestly, the Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs throws were not Aaron Rodgers, were not Jordan Love's fault. So, why should I expect Matt LaFleur to get it right? For all the same reasons that I think a lot of people are like, why should I expect Joe Barry to get it right? Why right now, given this team and the time that they've had to prepare for their last 2 opponents who are bad opponents on bad defenses, why should I expect them to get it right? Why do they deserve the benefit of the doubt? I mean, you have calls now for Matt LaFleur to abdicate play calling duties. That's how bad it's gotten. People want this guy fired. I don't, but some people do. I'm making the case for the pessimists. I'm trying to prop up their case. I don't believe all of this, by the way, but some of it I find compelling. On their schedule, who do you think they definitely beat? They're definitely better than Carolina. That's bad news because the Bears own their pick. Carolina looks like the worst team in the league. The Cardinals look like the second worst team in the league. Are you sure the Packers are better than any other team in the league? Right now, I'm not. After week 3, I would have told you, yeah, there's like 15 teams, 20 teams. Maybe not 20, 15 teams for sure that they're better than. Can't say that now. Can't say that now. They haven't looked that way over the last month. And this is a trend now with Matt LaFleur. Started strong last year. This exact part of the season, they started peeing down their legs. Same thing this year. Start out strong. Sort of the opposite of what's happening in the games. Look good. Everyone's excited. Couple injuries and you crumble. Now this team is not the punched in the face team, can't handle it, because they've come back in all of these games. Come back from 17 down to beat the Saints. Come back trailing to take the lead against the Raiders. Come back from trailing 2 scores. Could have been demoralized by losing to the Broncos. They come back and they do it. So, look, I can only go so far on some of this stuff. But there are the things that I think are compelling. The offensive line is still not fixed. Still a problem. I don't know why we would have any faith it's going to be fixed. They have made too many of the wrong calls on this. The first half stuff. Why should I expect Matt LaFleur to get it right? Why should I expect these young players to play any better? Yeah, they play better in the second half with their backs against the wall when they have to throw against teams that are protecting leads. Bad teams protecting leads. There's some context that I think we can provide from the glass half full side of this. Defensively, Joe Barry's not going to improve. He's not going to get any better. Give me a break. Give me a break. It's not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So where does that leave the Packers? Wondering where they go next. All right, I'm going to put all this in context as we wrap up here to talk about a buyer-seller question at the end here, just because that has been a topic of conversation. We're not going to talk about the draft. I promise we're not going to talk about the draft yet, but we have to talk a little bit about the trade deadline, and we'll do that coming up after this. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying your tickets for your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. This is the best way, the only way you should be buying tickets. And Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best prices. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you everydayers. We've got Lily Zhao on the program tomorrow, our crossover Thursday with our pal Luke Braun, and an interview coming at you on Friday. We've had some monster interviews of late, and that will not stop anytime soon. These two ideas actually come together in a really important way for the Green Bay Packers. This pessimist view versus the optimist view. And the understanding has to be, okay, Jordan Love, his evaluation is the most important thing to come out of this season. It's not the only thing, but it's the most important thing. What is the future of the quarterback position in Green Bay? If it is the case that the offense internally can get better, the question that you have to ask is what is holding them back now? Well, offensive line play, the lack of the running game, play calling, it's a lot of different things. And of course, the receivers and Jordan Love have their part to play in all of this. And if, as the pessimists will say, we have no reason to believe it will change, well, then that makes the Jordan Love eval tricky. It makes it that much more difficult because there's chaos around him. If they can't block, if they can't run consistently, if they can't find ways schematically to jumpstart the offense in the first half, but we see in the second half, they're outstanding, like league leading in the second half, well, then you have to be willing to do a little more to get a more thorough eval on Jordan Love. And to me, that means investigating every opportunity at the wide receiver position. If you can get someone who comes in and profiles as the kind of player, you're not going to get a one. Like the A.J. Brown deal in the middle of the season, it's not there. We had Diana Rossini on a couple weeks ago. We talked about the A.J. Brown deal and the fact that, look, this was never an open negotiation. The Packers could not have really gotten into those discussions. They were born out of negotiations for another player, and it just materialized more or less out of thin air. This was not James Harden and the Sixers and everyone knows he's available. That's not what happened. Okay, so that part of this, that part of history needs to be written here in an important way in terms of trying to create some context for us. But you can still get guys who can profile as improvements, as stabilizing forces in your offense. Courtland Sutton, who the Packers just saw, is exactly the kind of player that would make sense for Green Bay. He is a different type of receiver than they have. Someone who is extremely good using his body, who is a savvy route runner. He's not some like elite separator by any means, but he's a savvy enough route runner. He can win vertically. He can win with body control. He can win shielding his body in the middle of the field. And they just don't have a player like that. And that is, he's young enough where he's not holding anyone back. He can be a part of your development. He's still only 28 years old. And I'm sorry, I love Romeo Doubs. I love Dontavian Wicks. He would be better this year than those guys, and it's not particularly close. Like, it's just not particularly close. And so, yes, you have these younger players that you like. The problem with Sutton is he's on a real money deal. And you have a situation where he's going to cost the Broncos plenty of money to move on from, but they would save money doing that. The Packers would have to take some of that money, and he's under contract 2024 and 2025 at a reasonable number, $13 million. The Packers are spending the lowest amount in the league on their offense. Now, over the cap, for example, values him as a $10.8 million player. He's making 13. Okay, some of that is just the markup you have to pay. But as someone who, for the Packers, I think could have an impact. If you want to say Jerry Jeudy, okay, I'm fine with that. I don't know if that's culturally what you want to do. Someone who seems very unhappy, who the Broncos seem very unhappy with, and who's been on the trade market now for the last year and a half, maybe. Is that the direction? Is that really going to save your season? Probably not. Probably not. I, on a stream for Bleacher Report yesterday, made the case that, Justin Simmons and Budda Baker were guys that fit their timeline and could come in and contribute for them. That's not, I'm sort of backing off that. I said that a couple weeks ago too. This team is not competing right now for the postseason. So giving up high-end draft capital for a safety when you have to pay Budda Baker, especially at the top of the market, and Justin Simmons is already being paid at the top of the market, that's not really where you want to be if you're Green Bay. Courtland Sutton is under contract for 2 more seasons at a reasonable number and is not going to need a new contract. That makes more sense to me. And he's helping your evaluation of Jordan Love. Now, I'm not saying they need to do the DJ Moore deal like the Bears did with Justin Fields and Chase Claypool and get all these guys in and now, okay, only in the most ideal circumstances can you get a read on Jordan Love. But number one, Sutton would be an upgrade over Romeo Doubs at this point right now. Dontavian Wicks, who I really, really like. And Jayden Reed essentially plays a different position. Sutton can do a lot of the things in the middle of the field that Luke Musgrave is apparently just not ready to do. And unfortunately, the concussion was a big part of the story this past week. Already had a concussion a couple of weeks ago that he was dealing with. Scary situation to have a couple head injuries like that back to back. You hope concussion protocol, he comes out of it and is no worse for the wear, but that's unfortunately not how these things tend to work. The more concussions you have, the more susceptible you become to getting them in the future. So for the Packers, there are truths in both sides of these cases. And to me, it means they would benefit from getting some stability on this offense. That the young player idea was an interesting one. It was an exciting one. I was excited about it. But right now, it's just not where it needs to be. And it sounds like you're not going to have to pay a premium to get someone like Courtland Sutton because he's expensive. You're getting money off the books for Denver. And so that makes it more appealing to them to take if you could get Courtland Sutton for a 4, it sounds like Jerry Jeudy you could get for a 4. They're asking for a 3 and no one really wants to pay it. So if you could get one of those guys for a day 3 draft pick, yeah, you do that. And by the way, I think the Packers are exploring that trade market. I've been told the Packers are exploring that trade market. Jeremy Fowler reported the Packers have at least made contact with Denver. We don't know about whom, but what I've been told is they are looking for a receiver. I cannot say for sure that they called Denver about a receiver, but they have been calling about a receiver. They were active last year at the trade deadline about a receiver at a time when they were not winning a lot of games. I think we could see that again. And as we get closer to the trade deadline, you will continue to hear the Green Bay Packers names with some of these big receivers. I think it is something that does make sense, even if you're not going to go make a deep playoff run, to try and stabilize things around Jordan Love so that you can get a better read on what his abilities are when you have just like baseline competence around him. All right, back tomorrow. Lily Zhao, how you doing? We've got our crossover Thursday with Luke Braun. Vikings, and they showed a ton of fight on Monday against the 49ers. Packers opened as favorites. I don't know, as you listen to this, that they will be favorites. I probably won't, frankly. They probably will not be at home against the Vikings. Tough situation, tough scene. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, you can come after the Vikings game on our YouTube page. Go subscribe so you can stay Locked On Packers.